was a big raise.
But I didn't go to school. But after about 2 years, I was joking with Mr. Evey and about education and so forth. And he looked at me and he goes, "Andy, I have to tell you something. I paid for your education." I says, "What do you mean you paid for my education?" "Well, if you went to school, I'd have paid for your college education. But with the mistakes you made the last 2 years learning about the business, I still paid for your education."
Welcome to the Big Fish Cares podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
This is going to be a really great edition of the Big Fish Cares podcast. I have a really special human being. He's local here in the Bethel Park community. I know a lot of you guys are listening nationally. Bethel Park is a suburb of Pittsburgh in the South Hills. And that's where the Big Fish Contracting's headquarters is. This is where the Big Fish Cares podcast studio is. And this is where I've been able to grow my successful business. But I've got to learn from this gentleman. Andy Amrhein joins me today. He is the owner of Evey True Value Hardware here in Bethel Park. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Evey True Value, a lot of you probably heard of the True Value franchise. It's probably all over the country, right?
Yes, we got 8,000 stores in the United States.
So like no matter where you're listening, you know what a True Value is, right? Like there's still that little great, home improvement, place to where you can go and buy stuff and not have to deal with the big box stores. And Andy's been there his whole life. He's going to tell us all about it. He's also the host of KDKA's True Value Home Improvement Show, which that's the most fascinating and the most similar thing that we have in common is like this guy's in home improvement. He loves the local stuff, but he also has a heart for media and being able to tell stories. And I knew that we're always kindred spirits because when I first met him, I was like, wow. I said, this guy was into TV, radio, and all the equipment like before I was probably even thinking about it, which is really cool. He's also the vice president and former president of the Bethel Park Community Foundation, past president of the Bethel Park Library Board. And he's also a Bethel Park Alumni Hall of Famer, which is really cool, right? So, I mean, you are Bethel Park true and true.
I was born and raised in Bethel Park, and then it's great to be here. I've enjoyed tracking your success and the success of your company, especially because it's a Bethel Park company. And I born and raised in Bethel Park, so I've never lived anywhere else my entire life. I love Bethel Park. I love our community. It's a great community. It's a big community with that little town feel. So it's great to know all the residents of Bethel Park, and I, in particular, make sure I get to know all the business owners of Bethel Park, because small business is the backbone of the United States, not just Bethel Park, but everywhere. Without small businesses like yourself, Big Fish, or like my hardware store or my rental company or any of the other ones, without the small businesses, there is no United States. So that's why it's so important to me. And I enjoyed meeting you a couple of years ago and getting to know you and your staff and your company, but I've been here my whole life, and I absolutely love our community. And that's why I try and do so much in the community itself. But I graduated Bethel Park High School in 1978, long time ago.
I was born in 81 for context.
So, I mean, I'm 63 years old, but for me, going to high school there, my senior year of high school, I got in trouble because I went to work every day. I skipped school because I loved work. And when the principal, my senior year, finally caught up with me, he knew where to find me. I would walk from our high school to the hardware store that I became the owner of because I absolutely loved working with my hands, and I already went through all the tech ed classes of the time and the wood shop and all those, and I just like doing things. So I'd go to school, I'd check in, and then I'd leave. We have a light rail tracks that run through Bethel Park down into Pittsburgh, so I'd just walk the rails, go to work, and then after about 6-7 weeks of doing that, the principal of the high school came down and walked in the store, and it's about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I looked at myself and I'm like, man, this isn't good. And I even remember it's John Andraco, Principal Andraco, and real big guy, about 6'6" and 250 pounds. And I'm just this little 16-year-old runt or 17-year-old. He's Mr. Amrhein. Where's Mr. Evey, the original owner? I said, he's sitting in the office. So we went back, and then the two of them came out together, and Mr. Evey said to me, he goes, Andy, where are you supposed to be? I said, right here. I love working here. And Mr. Evey said, well, you told me this was an early work release. Well, the principal here, Mr. Andraco in the school district, never heard of an early work release. So you're kind of banned from work for the next 9 weeks, which was the hardest penance anyone could give me, not being allowed to go to work. So I got in the car with Mr. Andraco and went back to the high school, and he's like, what am I going to do with you? And I said, I don't know. I don't like school. I like working with my hands. So as detention for the next 9 weeks, I had to replumb the chemistry lab. So I did all the plumbing, changed all the faucets, the gas valves, and redid the entire chemistry lab, which was great. I loved doing it.
Yeah, they would never let a kid do that again.
All the equipment.
They would never let a kid do that ever again. No. Where was OSHA at back then?
OSHA, what's that?
Yeah,
how do you spell that? So I mean, that was my first real. I don't want to say work experience. I'd already been working there since I was 13 years old. So I had 3 or 4 years. What did mom and dad say
about that? When did you really get in trouble? Or
no, they never found out till after I graduated. After graduation,
so the principal didn't even have to call your mom and dad did you have to? You didn't have to tell them that you had to not go to Evey's True Value as much?
Well, I was still working. I just wasn't at the store. It was kept from them.
But you were actually you probably were getting paid at Evey's, right?
I was.
Okay, so what was the hourly rate?
25 cents an hour.
Back in 1978?
I was paid 25 cents an hour till I graduated high school. Then I went up to $1 an hour.
Hey, kids. You guys think you have it bad? 25 cents an hour.
And I loved it. And I never spent any of it. I kept, we were paid in cash. And I kept shoe boxes underneath my bed, and I ended up having to duct tape them because I'm one of 10 kids, and my older siblings would always go into my shoe boxes and take money out for their dates and things like that, and I just never cared. I worked, but finally after I paid for college tuition for 2 of my older brothers because I never went to college. I didn't like school. I liked working. I didn't need to, but when I was 17, I bought my first portfolio of stocks.
When you were 17,
I took one of the shoe boxes.
How did you learn? Because you didn't have the internet back then. So how did you? What did your dad do for a living?
My dad worked for Westinghouse, Bettis Laboratories.
What did he do?
He was a design draftsman and a CAD operator. Who was all in the nuclear Navy field.
So he's a pretty smart guy.
He's a pretty smart guy.
So did he tell you about stocks?
No. It's stuff that I always read and taught myself and listened. And there were certain teachers that I absolutely loved their classes. I loved classes on history, and I loved classes on investment and finance and making money. And to this day, I still help the school district with the 8th graders how to get their first job, how to job interview, what taxes mean, how to fill out a work permit. And then I do a lot with the high school DECA program, which is your program for entrepreneurials and business and marketing classes and everything like that. But, so here I am, 16, 17 years old, and I met this one finance guy through my church, St. Joan of Arc Church, and I found out what he did, and he had an office near our church. So the one day I just took a shoebox that was all duct tape shut. I walked down to his office and joined the summer, and I put it on his desk. And Mr. Angelo was his name. And I said, Mr. Angelo, I need to invest this. He says, what are you talking about? So he cut the box open. And there was about $10,000 cash in there.
Wait, how do you save up $10,000 cash at quarters an hour? I don't even know the math on that.
Because I cut grass and did roofs and painted houses and shoveled snow.
And all of it just kept going in the box.
And everything went in the box. I never spent it. And I delivered, when I was in elementary school.
That's probably the equivalent of like 50 grand or 100 grand today's day.
It could be. But when I was in first grade, I delivered 100 newspapers before school. And I'd go to school. I'd come home from school take a quick bite, and then deliver another 100 newspapers.
I think your mom
come home, do my homework, and went to bed.
I think your mom and dad thought they probably had 9 kids because you probably never were around.
I was never there. But
So what is the gap? Like, first of all, where like between the oldest and the youngest of the Amrheins, what's the spread?
My oldest brother would be 72. And my youngest, there's 8 boys and 2 girls. And my youngest sister, Mary, she would be 45, 46, maybe somewhere around in there.
So 46, quick math, 46, 56, 66, so 26 years in between them.
Yeah, give or take.
Wow. Mom was busy.
Yeah. My closest brother is 11 months older than I am.
So me and my sister are 11 months. We're called Irish twins, right?
Yeah. There you go.
So wow. So I'm assuming mom that was a full-time job for mom.
Yeah,
like
mom was a nurse. She
was a nurse too?
She was a nurse, but
and still worked?
After the first couple kids came, she had to quit being a nurse and just take care of
I mean, I don't know how she
kids.
didn't have to have 5 helpers with all these kids.
Well, after the older brothers were old enough, she did have helpers, but it took a while before they got old enough to help take care of us.
Yeah, so, and all 10 never lived together because of the 26-year-old.
Yeah, we did. There was 12 of us in one house.
Really?
With
so the 26-year-old must have stayed. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They lived in the basement. The 3 oldest boys lived in the basement.
So you stacked on top of each other?
Yeah, my bedroom had 2 bunk beds in it. So there were 4 in the one room with 2 bunk beds.
Man, there's so many lessons that you could pull apart from now of how to live and because nowadays nowadays that's not even you don't even hear about that.
We never wanted for anything. We never knew what we didn't have. We always had food on the table.
Was it always homemade? Your mom probably made it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And we had big apple orchards in our backyard. So
what kind of vehicles, though? They didn't have vehicles that big to have.
Station wagon and then a VW bus.
So you ended up getting a bus.
We had a bus.
You had to. I mean, what the heck, man? That's wild to me.
And when the VW buses came out, that was what Dad bought. And that was the first vehicle I learned to take care of. So when I was 15, I bought a VW Bug, and before I could drive, at a junkyard for $150. And my dad taught me how to fix it, how to do the body work, how to pull the engine, and how to repair the engine. And then when I was 16 on my birthday, we went to take my driver's test, and I failed because I did a 3-point turn in one turn. I just went in and out. And he said, come back tomorrow. So I came back the next day, and he laughed, and I did the 3-point turn in 3 points in the VW Bug, and that was my first vehicle. And it was hard putting shovels and axes and my tool belt and everything else.
No 8-foot truck beds.
No, it's in the front of the Bug. And
wow!
But got to know contractors as I was working at the store, and did my first roofs when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and built my first house when I was 16 and 17 years old, and then I sold it because I still lived at home. I didn't need a house, but I just wanted to build one. So we did.
I feel like back then, again, I've only been in Pittsburgh for 13 years. I appreciate you too by taking us transplants, because I came from Ohio. And then I even lived in.
Hold that against you.
Yeah, no. And then I even lived in Monongahela for a while. And then when I decided, man, I need to get my business somewhere where I can get some business, right? Mm-hmm. And we moved to Bethel probably
nice.
I don't know, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But yeah, Bethel's been a great community to kind of I don't know, it's there's all the stuff that you need here.
Right.
There's big businesses, there's little businesses, there's national businesses, there's local businesses. You got a mall, you got restaurants.
A lot of parks, a lot of green space,
of parks,
great library, schools.
Yeah, I mean, it's still if you ever visit here, if you're not from Pittsburgh, all the roads are still very curvy and they're still it's not easy.
Get lost,
you can definitely get lost, and sometimes you run into the neighboring towns, which kind of all seem like it's all South Park and even Upper St. Clair and McMurray, Peters. Yeah, it's just all one big melting pot of the South Hills, right?
Absolutely.
So Bethel Park's the heart of it.
It is.
And so your 8 brothers, are they all your dad also had to teach all you guys at least whatever your dad knew. So are all your brothers kind of similar in this?
Most of them are. they're all over the board as far as what they do. From
but they all have that
working
same
in the
type of
mills
ethic.
to being an iron worker to being college professors to being provost of a university to special needs teacher in Delaware to civil engineering to bridge inspecting to musicians to my one brother has 5 doctorate degrees. He's super smart, but has no common sense. So his wife keeps him. His wife keeps him from hurting himself. But they, growing up, Dad was always doing something around the house. So come on, we're gonna.
I can't believe he just wasn't working all the time. Like, holy
he had
cow!
2 jobs and
what else
everything
did he do
but,
besides working at Westinghouse?
He did design work as a contractor for different. Two different inventors.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So when they would call him to, they want to build this, but can you actually put it into paper for us so we could get the patents on it and so forth.
Did your dad share that information with you guys growing up, or did he kind of keep his work kind of like hidden?
Well, because he was Westinghouse and it was government nuclear stuff,
it's probably
he
top
never
secret.
knew it was.
Oh, wow.
And once a year, the FBI would come around the neighborhood to see if Mr. Amrhein talked to any neighbors about what he does. And
really?
It was just after
must be declassified now.
Well, it is. He worked on the Nautilus, the first nuclear submarine. He worked on the Enterprise, the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. But it was design work.
Is he still alive?
No. Dad passed away about 5 years ago.
I was going to say, man, I want to interview
Mom's
him.
94. Mom's 94. She's still alive.
Can we get Mom to tell some stories?
You would have to go to her apartment.
We'll go
She's
to
still
her.
by herself in her apartment, does her own cooking and
Cody,
cleaning.
we're going.
But,
we're going. I want to interview Mom. That's going to be the interview of the lifetime.
She would. She's very entertaining, and
she's got to be so proud of all of you.
Well, she is. Each and every one of them for different reasons.
Yeah.
And for Mother's Day, all she wants is I have to make her homemade apple pie. And I take it to her, and she makes sure, she goes, I don't have to share this. No, Mom, this is your whole pie. So she'll sit there, and over the course of 2 days, she'll eat her entire pie and so forth. But she's amazing.
It's like watching. It's like almost like his story. Your story reminds me of like when I was growing up watching the reruns of like Leave It to Beaver, these old American classics.
I get actually on the radio, a couple of my partners there, they always. When I come on air, they'll play the music for Andy Griffith.
Andy
show.
Griffith, yeah,
so
same type of thing.
I'll hear that music, and I just laugh. I find it very humbling.
It's like classic American, like you have the classic American life. Like if you could film that movie with the 10 kids and the mom and dad, and
I say all the time, if I had my life to do over again, I would not change a thing. Even for having detention for 9 weeks, because I redid a chemistry lab. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
so,
do you know how much in trouble they would do right now at Bethel Park trying to make kids
I made a slingshot to see how far hot dogs can fly across the room with the trajectory. So the principal wasn't happy with that.
So you got your dad's invention genes.
Yeah, I guess.
Like you just didn't go do all that fancy stuff.
No.
But you did a stint in the Navy, right?
No.
No?
No, I was never in the military.
Did I see something about Navy? Oh, maybe your father was.
My dad was.
Oh, your father
My dad
was in the Navy. Okay.
Yeah, he was in
Did he talk you out of going, or did any of your other brothers go?
No, none of one of my siblings spent time in with it, yes.
Gotcha.
Not years and years, but
is that how your dad got into all that stuff, like engineering and designing stuff?
He was on the USS Gilmore, and that was a submarine tender. So during the Second World War, and just after it, his ship chased the submarines around the world to make sure that they were replenished. That's what he did, and he'll tell stories of being stationed in Puerto Rico, Cuba. He loved Cuba. It was his favorite.
When
spot
can we go there? Are we allowed to go there?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so yet. But he would always look and say, "Is Mom around? I'll tell you another Cuba story if she's not around." So
that's what amazing.
He loved time.
What else
can
you tell? What else can you tell us about the old days and just people that maybe you've never shared before, or like a cool story that just would kind
of. I mean, one of the things I love about Bethel Park is how things are today, reminiscing about the old days. They're not too much different. They're still I spend a lot of time in our school district. I love teaching kids, helping kids, like I said, with the DECA classes or even the 8th graders. I'm very blessed that I currently, in our hardware store, I have 35 employees, and I have probably 10 deep of a waiting list of people that want to work for me. I don't have an employee shortage. I have zero turnover of my full-time employees. My manager's been with me 35 years and so forth. And it's just a matter of treating employees like you want to be treated and how I was treated by Mr. Evey, the original owner. And it is a family. Or my employees, it is like a family. But even taking my employees today to what the employees were 50 years ago when I started, it was that same feeling. When I was allowed to be on the payroll, not just be there mopping floors, but actually made it to the payroll. And I was allowed to be one of the staff and so forth. And the rest of the employees, they embraced it. And back then, businesses were closed on Sundays, which was the old blue laws, which was entertaining. But Saturday night, when the store would close, the gang would all go out together, whether it would go dancing or down to South Park or just cruise the boulevard.
Did you guys roller skate?
No, that's one thing we never did.
No roller skating around here? We did some roller skating in Canton, Ohio. But
there was a disco place not far from us, and that's where we all went to see how many girls we could pick up and go dancing and so forth, because we didn't have to get up on Sunday mornings and then the rite of passage with your employees when you were 21 years old. And I remember starting that night, but I don't remember how I got home the next morning until my brother found me in the yard and put me to bed before Mom and Dad could find me.
So you guys
it's your 21st birthday.
You guys had some fun back in the day.
We did. Yeah. We still do. And the staff is still that same great feeling. And walking through at the high school and talking to the juniors and the seniors, and I do a lot with the Carpenters Training Center. I love the trades, the trade unions, and working with Ricky O and them at the Trade Center, and helping the youth find their proper place, because college isn't for everybody, and by a long shot anymore.
I lasted 2 weeks. You probably didn't even sign up. You didn't even sign up. I signed up twice.
But Mr. Evey, he... I guess after about 2 years of being his manager, after I graduated high school, I became at 18 his manager of the family.
How much did you make an hour as manager at 18? Did you get a little bit more in a quarter?
Like $2, $2.50 or something.
That was a big raise.
It's a big raise. But,
that was a big raise.
But I didn't go to school. But after about 2 years, I was joking with Mr. Evey and about education and so forth. And he looked at me and he goes, "Andy, I have to tell you something. I paid for your education." I says, "What do you mean you paid for my education?" "Well, if you went to school, I'd have paid for your college education. But with the mistakes you made the last 2 years learning about the business, I still paid for your education." I was just fortunate that I guess he had deep enough pockets that I would make. And I knew the mistakes I made. He goes, "But for me to tell you, don't do that, okay, you wouldn't do it that time, but you'd do it again.
Yeah.
But when I let you learn yourself, why not to do that? That you lost money on that deal. You shouldn't do this. Do it. We do it this way, not this way. And there's reasons why. But when I learned those hard lessons by losing money on a job or losing money on a sale or something, those were lifelong lessons that I've kept with me today. That, okay, so he did pay for my education. It just wasn't a college education. It was on-the-job training.
Well, in the business world, and we make this comment around here at Big Fish a lot, we call it tuition dollars. We just,
perfect.
Every time that we have to, make something right for a customer, right? And obviously, somebody somewhere let something happen to where, and listen, accidents happen, right?
Absolutely.
Things happen. But usually
It's
there's
real
someone
world.
that's at least somewhat responsible for the activity, right? Whether it's Tommy on a project or a salesman, or, hey, Ben makes a mistake in marketing, or it's just there's all kinds of different tuition dollars. And I wish that it would only cost me the college education.
Right.
But I actually don't wish it, because without the pain of the dollars and then the learning and then that customer or the employee having having that experience to where like you feel that, right? Because I know I could tell that you care, I care. It's like that the caring part, what you feel in your heart and in your stomach is actually way more, that'll last for a lifetime. I don't even remember the dollars that I've lost on things before.
It's
I remember the feeling though.
I can walk down the street today. I could look every single person in the eye. I never have to cross the street. I know that I have never wronged a single person in business, ever.
Good.
And I know that there are people that will see me coming down the sidewalk and may cross the street but
they don't want to see you because they're afraid because they
know what they've done.
They weren't to stand up.
No.
Oh, that happens.
I sleep good at night, and I can look every single person in the eye, every customer I've ever had, whether it's with my hardware store, I have a commercial supply company, I have a rental company, I have a new construction company, I have a industrial supply, a government supply. I mean, we sell toilets to U.S. embassies around the world and so forth at times. So there's all these different parts of the business that I have lots of employees, but even just look at the rental business.
So it's not just that little hardware store we drive by on Library Road.
That's a nice storefront.
It's just the front, right? It's the storefront for Andy's import-export.
The hardware store, I joke that the hardware store is my hobby.
Yeah.
I love it. I love being in there. We have 300 or 400 people a day. Saturdays, sometimes 500 people in that store, which is great. And I love just being the greeter and opening the door and saying hi to everybody.
Yeah, and the average sale is probably what, $50, $75? Like
it's about $60.
It's just like that old school Americana. You feel like, gee, they probably don't even have the cash register. You still have you don't have the old school cash register anymore.
No, I still have one, but we don't.
Do you still use a tape calculator? Or are you on the computer now more?
I'm on the computer, but my tape measure is still my tape measure.
There you go. Well, that's good.
I remember getting my first fax machine as we were progressing along the way of getting computers. Our original invoices, everything was handwritten.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the month, you had to tally them up and put them on.
Press hard, there's 3 copies.
Press hard, there's 3 copies. Yeah. Absolutely on it. But the industrial supply business is just amazing for us. That's where our mainstay is. Like all the buildings in the city of Pittsburgh are customers of mine, whether it's the Westin Hotel or Allegheny General Hospital or Pitt University, or the ball fields or whatever. That's what we do 7 days a week. We have all the commercial sales.
And I'm assuming, just because I know you and I know your personality, those are all these deals that you've made are all been built on relationships 100%. And doing the right thing.
100%.
And there's 2 things that my mom and dad taught 100%. Me when I was a kid, and they're was show up on time and do the right thing. Yep. And I literally just used those 2 things, and then I'm enthusiastic. They didn't really teach me to be enthusiastic. I think that's just more of my nature. And those are 3 of our core, we have a lot of core values here at Big Fish, and that's enough, right? Showing up on time, doing the right thing, and if you can be enthusiastic and serve others, and it's like that's all those are the ingredients for success in business and in life, right?
And part of being a business in a local community is being part of that community. And that's where all the other side gigs, I'll say, came from the foundations and library
before we get into all that, I want to find out
and everything else.
Yeah, I want to find out, like, Mr. Evey, I'm assuming, how much older was Mr. Evey than you? Probably he had to be like your dad, probably was your dad's
same age as my parents.
So when Mr. Evey made this transition to say, how did he pick Andy, or did Andy pick him? Like, what was that like?
I think it was mutual. Mr. Evey had 2 children. They're still alive, Bruce and Jill, and his wife is still alive. Mr. Evey passed away in 95. But he knew that neither his son or daughter, who both worked at the store, had an interest in owning the store. Just like I have 3 children. Yeah. And my 3 children are grown and gone. One works for the government, one works for Nestle, one's a zoologist. They all got real jobs. They were asked, do you want to be part of the family business? If so, that's fine. If you want to go to college, I'll pay your college. If you want a different trade school, I'll pay for that. But what do you want to do in life? Find your passion, follow your passion.
That's awesome.
And I didn't have any of my kids that wanted to pursue it, and but Mr. Evey didn't either. But then when I was his manager and running the business, and this was in the early 80s, and he was saying, listen, let's start a transition plan. I'm in my 40s. I'm still way too early to retire, but the time is going to come. So he gave me a stock option when I was 20 years old that, okay, here's your pay, but I'll give you a percentage of the profits. And as percentage of the profits, you can buy stock in the company. If you don't want the cash, you just buy the stock. And I'm like, well, I don't need any money.
Well, no, you still have that money underneath your bed, right? As long as your brothers didn't steal it all, right?
Well, I ended up having to put a rat trap in the box. So the next time they did, I could see their fingers.
There we go. Clip that. That's going to be a good reel, Cody, the rat trap. Yeah.
But once I got to about 49%, Mr. Evey said, okay, you're done.
I still need control. I still need control.
So until I get the big check, you're done. And that took about 10 years. And then, in the 90s and, so forth, that's when we
So you just kind of layered yourself in, but like you were probably the head, you were his right-hand man, right?
He knew that I loved it. He knew that I worked all the time.
Was he like you, kind of like now, like where he's like always there, like or like your passion exudes? Like, I mean, I feel like he was
a businessman. He went to college, got a CPA, and he decided that he just wanted to own his own business. But that's why he, on the business side of it, he was a fantastic teacher.
Gotcha.
But as far as
and you had the enthusiasm, at the ground level that like is like irrefutable.
When I took over in 1980, let's say as his general manager, there was no competition. There was no box stores. There were no other hardware stores. There was no anything, and we had 8 employees maybe. You were closed on Sundays. You were open from 9 to 8. Now we're open from 4 in the morning to 8:30 at night, and 7 days a week, and everything else. But at one point, that's when the first of the quote Heckingers and Builder Square, if you want to go way back, they were the first box stores in the United States. They were there before Walmart. They were there before Home Depot. They were there before Lowe's, and competition. So I was, okay, Mr. Evey, it's right now every one of our customers are customers because they walk in the front door. If we're going to have competition from these new type of businesses with 100,000 square foot stores and so forth, I don't want to be naive and say we're going to maintain all those homeowners that come in, because you will with the old ones, but as the younger generation comes in, you don't know where they're going to go. So that's where I started going after commercial accounts. And that's where I started saying, okay, let's start with the customers that are already coming in, the municipalities, the churches, the schools, and let's go out to them and see what else we could sell them.
So that's like marketing 101. Figure out who your ideal customers are, and then go figure out how you could solve bigger problems for them.
That's it.
But you didn't go to marketing school. No, you didn't go to college.
It was real world.
It's just relationships.
Yeah. And then from there, I learned how to do those outside sales and what the big customers used. And it's the same thing. Yeah, the hotels we deal with, just because they have 700 rooms, they still have toilets, they still have light bulbs, they still have things that break. So
it's like everything Amazon, you're going to deliver their hardware to them.
And that's what we do. And we still do today. So we have 4 drivers. They leave every morning at 5 o'clock, and they make their circles around Southwest Pennsylvania.
But I'm sure there's huge big companies that do that. So why do they keep buying off of you instead of these big, massive like Amazons?
Because of me and the service we provide.
I mean,
you call me at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You have those goods the same day.
So what's going to happen after Andy's long gone?
My staff already has a transition plan worked out. They know what they're going to do, and when I
and they all know, and somebody's going to be the guy that they can call at 4 in the morning, and like you have a guy that's going to be able to step up and boom.
Yep.
Because I know you're probably some of that. You work, man.
I work. I get there at 4 o'clock, but I love it. I got hollered at today because I got there at 1 after 4, and a customer was waiting for me
at 4:01 a.m. What kind of customer show at 4:01 a.m.?
It was one of our warehouse managers for one of the big grocery chains in the area. And he was on his way to work, and he needed some specialty tools. And So he knew I'd be there, and I was a minute late, so I got hollered at 4 a.m.
Well, at least
he forgave me.
He didn't leave you a 4-star review.
Right? No. I told him I told him I'll give him a key to the building.
Well, and here's the one thing, because listen, it all sounds great, right? You know, we both have great businesses, but there's also things that happen in business.
Absolutely.
But I think when you do the right thing consistently, people will extend the olive branch and give you grace, right? Because
what I tell my staff and what I have preached and I've taught them, when you are presented a problem, that's when you shine. How you handle that problem speaks volumes for who you are and about the business. You know, it's taking a bad situation, a customer that felt they were wronged, whether they were or not, it doesn't matter. It's turning that customer that is unhappy about something, whether it's service, personality, product, something broke, even just meeting their expectations they think should have been that weren't reached there. But I thrive on when there is an issue, I really ramp it into high gear.
That's like that's when your job starts.
That's when the
job starts, right?
The job starts is how you handle adversity. And I mean, our business has grown almost every year, but there were tough years, like in 2008 when everything crashed, the home industry crashed, and banks crashed, and the market crashed, and everything else, and nobody was spending money. Or join the years of COVID, and employees were scared to go to work. Customers were
homeowners
scared.
were spending money, though, man.
Yeah, but in that, our business doubled during COVID. It's just due to, we're small enough to change gears instantly.
Love that.
You can do.
That's the entrepreneurial spirit.
Whatever you want to do.
Bob and weave.
Okay, we need to do this. Okay, it starts in 5 minutes. We start doing it this way instead of this way. Or you start home deliveries, or you start package pickup, or you start whatever. It's not shutting down or curling up. It's being able to change instantly.
Did you figure out how to sell masks during COVID?
We did.
Yeah, I figured.
We
Yeah.
We had masks. We had the disinfectants. We worked directly with some Pittsburgh-based manufacturers, and we had more than our share of product to have available to our customers.
Yeah.
From whatever it was needed to
consistent relationships
to where we took care of even the theaters, the school districts.
Wow.
We came up with equipment for disinfecting school buses, so the buses can still operate and everything else.
That's awesome. That's innovation, man.
It's innovation, and it's knowing how to deal with adversity or situations in positive ways.
Yeah.
So we had during COVID, we were shipping supplies to not just 50 states, but we were shipping stuff out of the country because of the products that we had.
So when I was saying import export, I wasn't really that far off.
No,
I mean, you've been sending stuff.
Oh boy, Africa, Italy,
you're
Russia, Mexico, Canada.
Global.
We've gone all. I have no territory. The world is my home.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears. How the heck, because, we're doing a podcast right now, right? And as much stuff that you do great for the hardware store and all the business stuff, you also have this passion for sharing stories. And, you have a show on KDKA, which is...
KDKA, if you didn't know, was the very first radio station in the world.
I didn't know that.
Out of Pittsburgh.
I didn't know that.
And it's only one of 3 or 4 radio stations that start with the letter K. And the letter K, when KDKA started, there was no government entity to handle broadcasts. So the government handed it over to the Navy, and all the Navy call signs were with a K. So they gave KDKA call signs that were as if they were a ship in the Navy.
It's mostly W, right? Like W?
No, that's what once the government really got involved and so forth. But that's why the only Ks, there's one left in Los Angeles, New York, and Pittsburgh. I think
is it like K105
something
or something like that? Yeah.
So, but KDK was the very first.
So how'd you get into this? Like, how'd you get into being on the radio?
I was helping a gardener by the name of Jane Nugent with a gardening show that she had on a station. It was WTAE, which was before they were bought out, and WTAE now is all sports. But I was helping her do a home show, and she was broadcasting for a couple hours on this WTAE talking about gardening stuff, and she kept getting asked tool questions. And I had met her before, and she knew I knew everything about tools. So she said, come on and sit down and do this show with me about tools.
What year was this? Ballpark, 90s?
This would have been 30 years ago.
So like in the early 90s?
Yeah.
Was this before like Tim the Toolman Taylor on Home Improvement?
Around that same time.
All right.
It was around the same time.
So you were living your best like Tim the Toolman Taylor.
I actually did a show, a local show with Tim Allen and Heidi.
Oh, really?
Who was her.
Oh, yeah. Everybody remembers Heidi.
So I did a show with Heidi and Tim Allen, and I have actually some autograph stuff from Tim. Some hand saws.
Do we have clips of that? Like, do we still have can we get the video of that?
No, because there weren't cell phones even back then for people to take
Yeah, but
videos.
do you have it's got to be on tape somewhere, right?
It's just in my big head.
That's all right. But that's cool, man.
But anyhow, we were doing a show with Jane, and this gentleman sat down and watched me talk on the radio for over an hour, which to me, I'm sorry, it's like watching paint dry, watching somebody talk on a radio show. But
I'm loving watching you talk right now. So you have a really cool voice and a great cadence.
Thank you. So, and after the show, he came up to me and he goes, boy, you really handle yourself well. There's no downtime. You never run out of things to say. I said, no, I love to talk. So he says, well, I'd love you to do a show for me. I'm like, okay, who are you? And he handed me a card, and his name, Michael Young. And he's senior vice president of KDKA Radio, but by then it was Westinghouse Broadcasting and out of New York. And I'm like, okay, have you heard of KDKA Radio? If you grew up in Pittsburgh, everyone knows KDKA Radio. He goes, I handle KDKA. Can you do a show on KDKA? I said, okay, when? He goes, Saturdays. I said, well, the only time I have available on Saturday is 10 o'clock. He goes, so what do you mean? You only do a show if I give you 10 o'clock? I said, yeah, pretty much. I got to be at the store at 4. I got to get everything up and running. Staff, I can't leave till then. I got to be back by noon. It has to be 10 o'clock. He goes, well, we do a travel show at 10 o'clock. I can't just put you in at 10. So I handed him my card, and I said, well, call me up if you ever switch. He goes, so you're going to walk away from doing your own radio show because I can't give you 10 o'clock? I said, yeah, I am.
Yeah, we got responsibilities.
I got responsibilities.
Yeah, I got a day job.
So 2 days later, he showed up at my store and he goes, okay, you start this week. And that was, that was 27 years ago on Saturday at 10 o'clock. And still 27 years later, I'm on Saturday at 10 o'clock. And the travel show is after mine. They just bumped their time slot so I could fit in at 10 o'clock. And
the rest is history.
Yeah. And
was
it's
that Paul Harvey, right? Paul Harvey says that, right? Yeah, Paul Harvey says
but the show is all, call us with your problems, hardware, home improvement problems, and we'll solve your problems in a way that the average homeowner understands. I'm not...
This is all before all the YouTube stuff where people can now just go on YouTube and see all the videos and the slides and like all the, and you never know what to believe now anymore. But you were the trusted guy.
So we've been doing it a long, long time.
Wow. So when I was a kid, again, I grew up in the 90s, right? And I didn't listen to, home improvement stuff on the radio, but I listened to Cleveland sports, right? Okay. The Indians were, a big time baseball team. And I remember my experience with the radio was just like, I had to be in bed like around 9 o'clock at night. Well, these baseball games, they start at 7, they end at 10. So I'd always sneak my radio in underneath my pillow.
I did too.
And I would listen to the baseball games, and the broadcasters were so awesome. And I always dreamed like, wow, it'd be really cool to be on the radio. And then I would watch sports, right? Or like on TV, and I would see like Bob Costas, like, man, it'd be really cool to like, be the guy that's like, the sportscaster. And then I would ask some questions at school about like, how you would do this and how you do that. And when I was in like 6th grade, when I got to middle school, we had a program. Like we had like we had a TV program. Like we would do like
nice.
a kids news like thing. And it was like, you know, we would shoot like on VHS, and then we would like edit tapes on VHS, and we'd have 2 double decks. And so I got to really experience like some of this production stuff. But like for whatever reason, the school was just like, yeah, I don't know. Like you could go to journalism or broadcasting, like and get your degree, and then you might get lucky enough to get a job at a news station. And the kid inside me was like, man, that sounds like a really long shot to become like Bob Costas, you know? And so I kind of just like, and even at my church was I had a big church in Canton, Ohio, and they had 3, 4, 5 cameras, and they actually had live like TV that they would do. And it was fun because I would be a video man and I'd have a headset on. And I just and it was like, so like, I just felt alive. Like editing, doing the video, being in production, right? Like there was nothing better. But as soon as I got out of high school, it's just like all that dreaming went away. And I lost it forever. And like, here I am, like I get like, you know, Cody's camera guy, I got the podcast equipment, the internet, social media, like it just makes it all possible for anybody now. And it's like so cool to see you doing it kind of like the old school way. And now everybody's got a podcast.
When we did shows and we recorded commercials, when I started, everything was recorded on, you know, just the 60-second VHS tapes. And there was a big magnetic wheel that after you would play that commercial, you put the tape down on the wheel so it would erase everything, and you'd just keep reusing the cassette tapes and so forth. And I mean, it was some very old school equipment, but back then it was state of the art. And when we'd be playing the commercials during the show, there'd be the tape decks, and you'd have like 6 tapes lined up in a row, and you'd have to have all the tapes in of which commercial would play and hit the start buttons and, you know, pulling them out and put the next ones in and so forth. It was quite a production. Yeah, it really was. But now it's totally different.
So even at the radio station, I'm sure things have changed, right? From technology stuff like that. And it seems to me that you always kind of keep innovating, and like you're not afraid to like go from a fax machine to like email and like, you know, and use some of the technology, right? But there's a lot of people your age that just for some reason don't want to keep moving with the times. What do you say to that? Like why were you different?
You know, for me, I like being outside my comfort zone.
Why is that?
I don't know. I'm crazy.
It's just in us, right?
It's just in us. It's crazy. I'm not afraid of failing. And I don't consider it ever failing. It's just I got to try something different.
It's another opportunity to learn.
This is it. This didn't work. Let's do something else. I'm not embarrassed if I do something wrong. It's just I'm very comfortable with myself. And if there's any one thing I taught my kids or I teach my employees is you have to like yourself. You have to be comfortable with yourself, and you have to be willing to try, to learn, to change, to evolve. And if not, life would be very boring. And
was there ever a time in your life where you weren't comfortable with yourself or you didn't love yourself? Like, was there ever like a shift?
No, I would say I was probably pretty shy in middle school. Middle school seems to be tough years for everybody. And it was just finding your groove at middle school. And I guess maybe that's why I enjoy working with 8th graders.
Is that because when you're in elementary school and all of a sudden like all the elementaries combine up, right, to the middle school? So it's like, oh, these new people, right?
For 12 years, I was at my church, our youth director.
Okay.
And after my family just got to be 3 kids and enough, I had to leave being the youth director. But in that time also after that, I taught the Sunday school classes down at our church. And none of the teachers would take the 7th and 8th grade classes, you know, because the teachers were all like, oh, we're volunteers here at the church to do that. And those kids are so tough.
Yeah.
Give them to me.
Give them to Andy.
Give them to me. I have absolutely no issues. And it was, I remember there were years with our at St. Joan of Arc, the 8th graders would be confirmed to move on. And it was heartbreaking that your parents are supposed to be standing up for you as you go through and are confirmed in front of the bishop and so forth. And there were years that I had to stand up because the kids' parents wouldn't even show up and so forth. And so, I mean, I guess 7th, 8th grade, seems to be tough years for me. And when I was in, at least I think I was in 7th and 8th grade at one time.
If you even went,
so that's
I don't know,
why,
you're probably working somewhere.
Yeah,
you're probably working at the hardware store.
Well, I had my own handyman service at that time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I was painting houses.
This man's done it all, I feel like. Is there anything that you haven't done that you wanted to do?
Haven't done? I pretty much have done everything I ever wanted, but there's still always something new.
So, like, what's next? So what's something you're thinking about right now that you're either thinking about doing or you might do or it's in the works?
Well, my wife finally bought a lake house in Ohio because she says I have to start slowing down a little bit. So
Who says?
She did.
Oh.
She wants me to be around for another 20 years or so. So she bought a lake house, but then right away I had to put 2 new bathrooms in it because it was only 1 bathroom. So now there's 3 bathrooms. So I'm fixing that up. So it's a new challenge because it's on a lake.
But don't you think that's what's going to keep you alive?
So
longer,
absolutely.
Keep moving.
I'm never gonna stop.
So I want to talk.
Maybe it would be nice to get a hole-in-one golfing sometime.
Yeah, I'm not that good at golf. I got this close at
trying.
South Hills Country Club. I'll never forget it. On the 4th hole, I was that close.
Yeah, mine was 16th at number 16 at Nemacolin Country Club. I got to an inch, rolled all the way down to the top.
I was so excited. I was watching it, and I was like, ugh.
So
I got a buddy that's got like 4.
And
I got I know some guys that got like multiple, especially when you go to when you hang out with all these golfers. First of all, it makes me feel like I really suck at golf. Yeah. And then like you hang out with some of them and they just like I got this hole in one over here. I got this hole in one. I'm like, that's not for me. But 3 things that drive you really is your family, the community, and the joy of helping people. Yep. I think you talked a lot about your community, but let's talk about you and your family. You had a great model, right? Your mom and dad seemed like they were like amazing human beings, and and then you had 10 kids, and so like what was it like to raise your own family, and then what was it like for your kids to be like Andy's kids, because like everybody knows Andy's like you're like a local celebrity before celebrities existed.
I know there were times that it was challenging for them.
Yeah.
Same with my younger brother and sister used to tell me stories like my youngest sister, when she went out on her first date and she wouldn't tell me who she was going out with. So I called my friends who were police officers that night working, and I had to pull him over so I could find out who he was. And then my sister found out that I had her and her boyfriend pulled over, and he never asked her out again just because I wanted to know who she was going out. A little protective, I guess.
A little bit.
So, I learned maybe that was quite a step too far with my own kids.
Did your wife tell you that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so did my sister tell me that after, she finally forgave me after about a year or so. But, the kids being in this store and growing up around all the store and the customers and working at the store from when they could walk, they would be at the store with me because they loved doing it and doing these special events and cooking hot dogs on the grill. So,
they just grew up.
They just grew up and just naturally do it.
Yeah.
I guess, but being in the community, they knew that they could, if they ever were in trouble, I would know about it because everyone knew who they were, and it was. But I'm very proud of the fact that the work ethics that they have, the community ethics that they have, they are all in their own world of what they love and what they do, but they volunteer. My middle child, Catherine, runs the Cleveland Youth Literacy, making sure there's school books in every
she lives
kid's
up in
hands.
Cleveland.
She lives in Cleveland.
She a Browns fan by chance?
Not at all.
Man, come on, Catherine.
No, not at all.
I got my Leroy Kelly. I got my Leroy Kelly Browns helmet.
Yeah, we've gone to their football games and baseball games up there. Great ballparks, but she's still
how old's Catherine?
Pittsburgh. Catherine would be 32.
32.
My kids are 30, 32, and 34.
Oh wow.
My my kids, and they all do well. But they all.
So where's
my oldest at 34, Jamie? She works for the federal government, and she lives in Washington D.C.
So she lives in D.C. Catherine's in Cleveland,
and Robbie's in Atlanta. And Jamie, our oldest, she graduated from Notre Dame, and went to work for the French government, taught English to high school seniors, teach America stuff.
Man, your mom and dad gotta be so proud. I mean, how many grandkids does your mom and dad have?
Oh, we would be
Can you even
close
count?
to 40 grandkids.
Do you guys ever all just get together?
We haven't. For pre-COVID, we did.
Okay.
We haven't as a
You guys all pretty close though? Or?
We are.
And nobody like broke off and said, "Oh man, I can't hang and be."
I've lost one brother
Okay.
to cancer, brain tumors, but the rest, I still talk to them every month. I see all of them
Do you guys
at least
group
once
text?
a year.
What's that group text gonna be like? Holy
And
cow!
I got my mom at 95. She has what is called a grandpad. It's like an iPad for grandparents, so they get stories, videos, and pictures sent to her all day, every day. So every morning when she wakes up, she flips up her grandpad and she sees what her children and grandkids and great-grandkids did the day before.
Yeah.
So I make sure that everyone
right.
at least
Great
once or
grandkids.
twice a week, they send grandma pictures. So my one old brother is building a medical teaching hospital in Nairobi right now. And he's
I know, Cody. Cody's like, well, I feel like we can just keep going. And imagine if we had to go interview all the brothers and sisters, all their spouses, all their kids, all their spouses, all their grandkids. I mean, like it
It'll take you a while. It'll take you a while. So, but he'll send her pictures from Nairobi, or my brother who is my nephew who jumps out of helicopters with ski patrol in Alberta and so forth, and we'll send her pictures from the mountaintops in Banff and stuff like that.
Banff. So a piece of technology that we use here at Big Fish to like present customers' proposals. It's called Sumo Quote. The founders of Sumo Quote, Orion Schatz, he lives in Banff. I never heard of it, but it is beautiful. He's like Benny in his Canadian accent. He's like, you got to get up here.
You do.
He's invited me a bunch of times.
I love Alaska. My wife loves the Mediterranean. So
you go on vacation?
Wait
a second. When do you have time to go on vacation?
My wife plans the vacations. And before we leave the house on vacations, I have to hand her my cell phone.
You have to like check it out of the box.
And she leaves my cell phone at home. And my staff knows that if something is that critical that they feel they can't handle, which has never happened in ever, that they could call her to get to me, and they're afraid of her, so they will never call her.
Yeah, well, they know what to do anyway, right?
They do.
Like, yeah, of course.
They do.
That's awesome. How many vacations do you take a year?
Well, we haven't been on one in 3 years with COVID.
Okay.
We take one a year. This year, we're in August. We're going to go visit my brother in Africa for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks.
So you'll take like a 2 or 3 weeker.
Yeah.
Now, knowing you've probably been trained. Your wife's been training you. You can probably sit still now. But like, I still struggle, right? So like we do 2 a year for me, and like it's like 3 days, and I put the phone down.
Couple days are really hard.
Well, yeah, but like, I can only do 3 days. Yeah. So like I put the phone away for 3 days, but I can only do 3 days like without having to like want to get back at it.
For me, it's those first couple of days I'm still looking for it. Where'd I leave my phone?
Well, it's like
and I know it's at home, but I still look for it.
I need to make an impact.
But then by the time the 2 weeks are done, I'm like, well, maybe retirement wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, well, especially when you know how good of people you got back here taking care of everything, and you can kind of come back and just like wave and be like, hey.
See, I look forward to. I still love work, and I still work 80 hours a week. I used to work 100 hours a week, but my wife had me weaned down to only 80 hours a week. But I look for maybe in 3 or 4 years, if I am only working 20 or 30 hours a week, it's what is my next challenge in the community. So I love finding a project each year to help resurrect, to help fix.
What are you doing this year?
The last year and this year, I've been really working on South Park Theater. It's
Okay.
a local theater group, and COVID devastated the theaters and the theater groups and the actors and so forth. So I've spent a lot of time helping the theaters reinvent themselves, change. And South Park Theater here was an older building. It's a 100-year-old building. So we've fixed the buildings and put in air conditioning they never had, put in furnaces.
Who do you get to do all that stuff? You just get all your buddies around the community.
Yeah, you'll be when I need a roof. You'll be on the list.
We only do shingle roofs, no flat roofs. But I got you a flat.
You got
roofer.
a guy.
Yeah, I got a guy.
Or like one of my window guys put in all new windows, and John Oakes put in new air conditionings and furnaces.
I love that. Listen, that thing that you do with the golf outing and stuff, getting all the community people together.
Well, and that's
really
it.
cool.
Our golf outing is, I call it Fantastic Four Charities, and the outing makes some good money. We net about $60,000 after expenses for the outing, and I split it between the Bethel Park Community Foundation, which I helped start 26 years ago, the Bethel Park Education Foundation, which we started that about 6-7 years ago. Community Foundation supports the community, from individuals to organizations in the community. It betters the lives of the residents of Bethel Park. The Education Foundation is just for teachers and students. Administrators and district are not allowed to ask for money. We give seed money to innovative programs that teachers or students think of, or
That's
seed
cool.
money to restart. Like we helped this year restart the Forensics Club, because during COVID it just went away, and they needed seed money to get new blazers and get trips done and so forth. So, and then with that, the Bethel Park Historical Society, because I love history, and we have an amazing historical building in Bethel Park.
Yeah.
One of the original schools, and it's now been renovated and fixed up and so forth with it. And the other is my biggest passion, which is the Bethel Park Public Library. So, because everybody deserves a book. Everybody.
I got books everywhere. Most of mine have to do with business, but
everybody should learn to read. And if I had even a slight regret, it's I never found the time to have the love of reading, but I made sure that my kids and my wife love to read, and it helped get them to where they are with their passion. So
you move too fast. Have you ever listened to Audible books?
No.
Like I think that you could. So I can't sit. I have a hard time sitting and just reading because I want to keep moving. But like when you're in when I'm in the car, if I got a half-hour drive somewhere, I can read. Most of these books that I read are anywhere from 4 hours to 6 hours long, so I can get a half hour in, a half hour, and so I can get my reading in that way now with technology. So I don't know. You should try that.
I should try it. Well, at our lake house, my wife the other day built all this new patio furniture for us. She's sitting out there reading. She goes, "Here, I got your book. Start reading." So she's reading. The next thing I know, I'm tearing our outboard motor apart and rebuilding the carburetor on the motor, because I'd rather be doing that than reading the book on how to do it.
Yeah, your dad taught you well.
But the community is everything. What good is my business in the community if I'm not part of the community? With no community, I have no business. So I got to make sure the community is doing well, and if my community is doing well, then my business is doing well. And that's why the community is so important. So maybe if I wean away from the hardware store a little bit, I'll just find
more
different
community work
projects, different community works. Or we're working on 21 food gardens all around the South Hills right now.
What is that? What's a food garden?
We teach through Grow Pittsburgh. Grow Pittsburgh teaches people how to grow their own food. So I help with Grow Pittsburgh and giving them all their gardening equipment and starting their own tool rental library in the city of Pittsburgh for gardeners. Could come and borrow shovels and tillers, and we gave them all these gardening tools. So now we have a garden resource center. So people who don't have big yards but want to garden, so we take an empty lot and we teach them how to garden. But in the South Hills, through the South Hills Ministries and so forth, we have 21 food gardens now that grow food for our food pantry. So once again, we find lots, we build gardens,
Wow.
we teach people how to, and a lot of it is ethnic food. So we have a large population in Baldwin that kind of came from India, and they like hotter peppers and different foods. And
I like hot peppers.
So we teach you to cook here, to grow here,
Yeah.
what you like to eat. So
That's
it's
so
helping the
cool.
food pantry. So there's always something in the community to do, and it's all wrapped around the store, but it's all one and the same. But it's me. I am the store. I look at myself. I'm the ambassador.
Is there ever
So
a
that's
community
all I
project that you haven't been able to get behind? Like, I mean, like, how do you say no to stuff? Because it seems like you say yes to a lot. So, have you ever said no to anything?
That's my wife's job. She tries to say no for me, but it never works. We do a lot of Boy Scout and Girl Scout Eagle projects and Gold projects. So we do about 100 Boy Scout projects a year for their Eagle programs. And
You must have like just Well, I mean, I can tell you
It's a
make
passion.
you make an impact, and you listen. You influence others to like help. I mean, you're not doing all this stuff by yourself.
No,
I mean,
no,
like you're just the kind of guy that kind of gets it going and
we'll
keeps
get
it
a
moving.
New, municipal manager or a new superintendent.
Oh, you gotta
or
go.
a
You
new-
gotta go.
you know,
Yeah, you gotta
I
get
gotta
his
go
ear.
meet them,
Yeah.
and on the pretext that here we're going to interview you for our latest TV show, just so I could get to know you, and then from there we'll let you know how important our community is. Welcome to our community, and then I slowly reel them into doing things the way I want them done.
Well, I know you've been a great blessing for me personally at Big Fish, and
I love your company, and that's why I'm sitting here today. In my world, I am very, very, very selective of who I do business with, who I talk to, or who I will talk about. And for me, I get asked to do podcasts, radio shows, endorsement TV shows. I'm not going to say daily, but probably 3 or 4 requests a week. And I'm going to say 95% of them I turn down because I don't endorse any product. As far as a paid endorser, I will
No, I get
never
that.
take payment for endorsing any company or any product. It's not who I am. If I like a company and I like the people and I like the ethics and how they operate and they follow the way that I think it should be done, I will talk about that company till I'm blue in the face. Or if there's a product, the brand of water, you like that, I try it and it works, then I will talk about and I will recommend that product. But the only way that I will recommend a product is I try it, I use it, I like it, I believe in it. And I get asked to sell products at my store every day because
I'm
of
sure,
because of the radio show and TV shows, and people know that I can sell products, but I can sell products because I talk about products at work. And I would say for every product that I talk about, there's probably 50 products that I don't talk about for different reasons, whether it's the company that I don't agree with or the product that I don't like. And my wife loves it because I'm always bringing products home to try.
Oh, yeah,
And
you're like
she
a
always-
tester.
I'm always testing products. So I'll bring something home. Hey, Mary, I got to clean the kitchen today. She goes, knock yourself out. You go for it. You have fun doing it. So I'll use new cleaning products or anything. And there was probably the funniest one is there's a company out of Philadelphia called Jonathan Green. Jonathan Green started as a grass seed, a sod manufacturer 150 years ago. And they have developed into a really good grass seed company. And they make a genetically engineered grass seed now that you know about grass seed. Grass seed, there's a lot of grass seeds on the market, but the average roots of a grass seed grow to 3 to 4 inches. And at the end, that's all it does, and it lives. You either help it and help the soil, and healthy soil, healthy grass, all that kind of stuff. But the salesman came and said, here's some grass seed. This grass seed, the roots grow 4 to 6 feet deep. I'm like, yeah, right, 4 to 6 feet deep. He goes, nope. I'll come back next year. I don't expect you to talk about it, but here it is. I want you to grow it, and I'll see you in a year, see what you think. And I'm like, well, that's strange that he's not pushing harder and he's going to call me in a week or 2 weeks
Yeah.
or anything. So I built out of plexiglass. You would think of an old ant farm or
Yeah.
a worm farm, this thin plexiglass. My wife comes home and she finds this 2 sheets of plexiglass that are about 4 inches thick, but it's 4 feet tall and 6 feet wide, sitting on her deck. And she goes, "You've lost it. What are you doing?" "I'm planting grass seed." She just shakes her head and walked away. And I planted this grass seed. And a year later, this seed, the roots were 4 feet deep.
Wow.
Like, okay. So I talk about it all the time. It's called Black Beauty Ultra. But so for a year, she had to see this
Yeah. You got to watch. You like to watch from afar and make sure that it's going to do good.
It's growing.
Well, I know that we obviously...
But getting back to that's why I'm here with you.
Wow. I just wanted to hear your story. This has nothing.
I love what
this has
Big
nothing
Fish
to do with
doesn't
big,
do.
This has nothing to do with actually the Big Fish contracting company.
But it does because
Kinda.
it's you.
Sure.
And if there wasn't you, there wouldn't be the company.
That's true.
So
we've shared a lot of the same homeowners. I know that.
I like your beliefs. I like your work ethics. And we do share a lot of the same homeowners.
I remember you calling me for the first time and said, "Hey, I've been hearing a lot about your company. I've had homeowners come in and talk to me about your company." And then you sent me one of your friends that needed a roof repair. I remember dealing with him. And then I forget what else happened. A couple of things probably, kept matriculating and, still didn't meet you. And then I like to always, I'm a big fan of, even though I didn't go to college, I'm a big fan of like trying to educate our people, right? And I put together these what I call little mini conferences, because I can't afford to like send my people to everywhere, So I was like, I'm going to host my own little conference here. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
I asked you to come speak and do like a half-hour talk. And you were gracious enough to come in and share it and shared that. So that was really cool. And then getting to know about the community foundations and how we can support and like the golf outing, and then, connecting with, local business owners and our buddy Ron Arnone. Cause like, he everybody, he really knows everybody. I mean, everybody's in front of him at least once in their life, probably just like you probably.
I was.
Well, I had a speeding ticket. I know that. So, it's just really cool, what you're doing, and it's like you are definitely a role model. You're a role model for me. They don't make people like you anymore. Yeah. Do you see? I mean, what are we gonna do with these kids?
I haven't given up, and I'm still working with them, and I have some very good success stories over my life working with the youth who turn into adults. And I get cards and notifications and even visits from students that I've worked with to past employees that went through our store in high school and college and then moved on into their careers. And especially over the holidays, over the Christmas season and so forth, I get a lot of calls or visits, and it's very heartwarming to see where they are, what they've done, whether it's just their family experiences or their business or their community involvement. And I have alumni of different passions of mine over my life all over the world that I hear from, and it's really heartwarming. So to say that I give up on youth, that'll never happen.
I don't mean give up. I just mean like there's just it's your story is so unique. Where like you got that mom and pop shop, you're a staple in the community. I just feel like there's still going to be awesome kids with great stories, and there's going to be cool stuff. I just had Nino Bonacorsi in here, right? National champion, right? Yeah. But it's going to be different, right? Like it's not gonna be the mom and pop story. I don't know. What do you think the future looks like over the next 20 years for like, broadcasting, marketing, business, youth? Like, give me some insights with Andy as we wrap this show up.
As soon as everyone in society can calm down and get through the political crap that we've all been thrown into and get back to dealing with the important stuff in life, and that's family, friends, your community, your neighbors. I'm not worried. It's work, but it's an effort, but it's very, very much worth it. And I enjoy working with the youth because it keeps me young, keeps me energized, and it keeps me reassured that just like when I was in high school and my senior adults would say that your generation is useless, and we weren't. We were just different. And my kids' generation, who now they are in their 30s, they were all told they were worthless, and they are showing where they shine. And the high school kids of today just finished with 100 DECA students, came back from national tournaments for their business and marketing, and hearing where they're going. Some of them are going to teach I have a couple seniors in high school that are taking a year off from going to college to go to other countries to help teach high school seniors the English language.
Wow, that's cool.
And they're 18-year-old kids.
Yeah.
They're kids.
That's so cool.
And they're still traveling to help the world before they go to start their careers. To the number that are going into engineering or nursing, to the number that I would just did the open house at the Carpenters Training Center, to the 2,000 kids that want to get into the trades to become carpenters or pile drivers or bricklayers or
how about roofers?
Or roofers.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the
It's all part of carpentry, right? Siding, roofing is all part of carpentry. Has Mallory shared with what we want to try to do? We want to try to get into more trade schools.
I'll take you out to the Carpenters Training Center anytime you want.
You should definitely connect with Mallory, because Mallory's already got this dream of because she's a former school teacher.
Without Mallory.
I mean, I'd be lost.
She tells me every day you're lost without her.
I'm lost without a lot of people.
And Allie. You need them both.
I'm lost without everyone here at Big Fish and everybody, because I'm just floating through life, I feel like.
But I'm very much looking forward to each generation.
Good.
What they have to offer and how they're going to change the world for the better. Even though every decade there's bumps in the road.
Yeah, of course.
We have a bump in the road.
Well, if there's anything I can help you with,
the bump in the road.
If there's anything I can help you with personally, I love to talk to kids about, I've been in Jefferson High School talking to kids, about entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
They have a.
We'll get you introduced to Bethel School.
Yeah, well, and again,
they're always looking for speakers that are free.
I love. Couple times a year I can do the free ones. Yeah. So, but for kids though, I love it, right? Like for kids, I love it. I want to, I love the entrepreneur journey, right? Because my life has been really impacted in such a positive way through the fabric of small business and entrepreneurship. I started this company 8 years ago, almost not even 8 years ago, with nothing. I think I had $12,000 to my name. And I just...
Everyone told you were crazy.
Well, I mean, my uncle fired me. You know how family is. Can get got a little emotional. And I had a lot of ideas. And I had a lot of ideas. You know what I mean? It was time for me to go flap my wings, right? And so I was either go get a job somewhere else, or hey, go do what you know, right? And I just did it. And I kept doing it. I kept doing it. And, here we are, I have amazing people, an amazing community. I want to be able to tell that story to these kids, because
it's important.
Whether they want to be the entrepreneur, which is, listen, I'll talk most of them out of it. Because if you're not wired for that kind of crazy,
it takes a special person to do what we do.
There's a lot of team members that we need, right? And so if there's anything in that regard that I can help with, I know my company, and the people here with Mallory and Rob, and they are definitely also committed to, trying to find more people in the trades. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to wrap this podcast up, because me and you could literally talk forever. And maybe one day we'll start our own show. Who knows? That would be kind of fun. Or it could last forever, and you guys might just never be able to.
Just tune in whenever you want.
Yeah, just tune in. It'll just 24 hours. We'll put goggles on. We'll be in the metaverse. You'll be at the lake house. I'll be somewhere, and we'll just have a show, right? But there's 5 questions I ask every guest. So imagine there's nobody left on planet Earth.
Okay.
You're the only person.
Okay.
You're on an island.
Okay.
You can take one book with you. What book do you take?
See, it's tough for me because I haven't really read many books.
Well, just what book do you think you would take with you?
How to build a boat.
All right, cool. That's
so I could get off the island.
There you go. That's a great answer. What movie would you take with you?
Oh. See, I'm a huge John Wayne fan, so any of the John Wayne movies I'd be happy with.
Pick one, because the audience is probably dying to hear
Sands of Iwo Jima.
Yeah, and again, I'm too young for that. I've never even heard of that. I know John Wayne's the old cowboy guy, but other than that, I don't know any of the names of the movies.
My kids would laugh at that.
Yeah, that's
I watched too many of the old war movies.
Well, we'll have this published on YouTube, so we'll send them a link and they can watch it. And then the next question I always ask everybody is, you can build a restaurant on your island. It can be any restaurant that you want. It can only be one. It could be something local that you like. It could be somewhere that you travel to. What restaurant are you putting on your island?
Can I take the chef with me? Chef Bill Fuller, Big Fish. They have Bill Fuller owns a chain of restaurants in Pittsburgh.
What's it called?
And 11 is his top end one.
11?
11.
Me and Brittany go to 11 every Wednesday night.
Well, that's Bill Fuller, my friend that owns that. He's the
really?
head chef.
That's so nice. I love it in there.
His Italian dishes and so forth. So as long as I could take him with me, then we're all set.
Me and Brittany, we've been doing this Dale Carnegie thing that my buddy John Glanneman invited me to, and it's all the way in Washington, and we live actually out by the waterfront, and we stop at 11 on the way home. The last 3 Wednesday nights in a row, we've been at 11 because they're one of the only places that are open in Pittsburgh that that late.
His chain is the Big Burrito Group.
The Big Burrito Group.
Big Burrito Group.
Yeah.
11 is my favorite restaurant out of all his Mad Mex and all his other ones. So,
wonder if you'd be interested in going to business with me on a food truck. I want him to create a Big Fish food truck with the big fish and be able to serve tacos.
Well, then you need Jeremy Crushfield.
All right.
Now
we're connecting.
Jeremy is when you want look him up, just Google Hunt Chef. And he's a nationally known chef, but he lives in Uniontown here outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And his main theme is you eat what you hunt. You eat what you kill.
Yeah.
So he's on all the sports channels and everything else.
But he knows about food trucks.
Mm-hmm, he just opened his first food truck. And I've done shows with him. Yeah. He's going to be at my store on July 1st. So if you want to meet him, you can come to the store on July 1st.
Crazy idea.
And he wants to start a new line of food trucks because he tours all over the country.
Yeah.
But he has his own line of seasoning that he puts.
Yeah, sounds like my guy. I need to partner with an operator
He wants to partner with some people on some different food trucks.
Yeah, I want the big fish taco truck or the big fish
He'd do it with you.
Well, and then I want to be able to go to job sites like Monday through Thursday, do job sites because I'm on 3-4 different job sites every day. Mm-hmm. So feed the guys, give the homeowners in the community, try to break even on that. But then Friday, Saturday, Sunday do the events and the community stuff.
How you have Mallory, he has Kim.
Oh yeah,
so you have to work with Kim to get to Jeremy.
Sure. Well, listen, my girl will work with his girl, right?
We could do that.
All right,
we could do that.
There's 2 more questions.
Okay.
So you can take a trip anywhere you want in the world. You're allowed to go. You're allowed to leave your island, for 1 week and go anywhere. It could be someone that you've never been. It could be somewhere where you love. Where do you want to go for a week? Anywhere in the world.
Back to Alaska. I would live in Alaska.
What part of Alaska?
Anywhere in the woods where there isn't anybody. I love the wilderness.
Is that along the coast or is that in the middle?
No, you'd be in the middle of Alaska.
Okay.
I like the Yukon area. I like taking the trains all through Alaska. I like where the bald eagles are there. Like you have crows around Pittsburgh. Alaska is just, my wife loves the Mediterranean. I'll stick to the snow.
I'm going to go with your wife. I think I like your wife. She sounds good.
The Mediterranean's very, very pretty.
Yeah.
But I would live in Alaska in a heartbeat. And she said, I just have to find a new wife. But I've already been with Mary for 38 years. So I think I got this one.
Yeah, you got that one figured out.
Yeah.
All right, last question is probably the hardest question. You're allowed to spend 24 hours with one person and pick their brain and spend time with them and ask them questions and whatever you want to do. It could who's that person going to be? Past, present. It could be someone famous.
I want to spend more time with my dad. My dad, when he retired from Bettis, my mom and dad bought a 5th-wheel travel trailer and they toured the country for about 5-6 years and came back. And my dad had a virus attack his brain. And so he lost most of his memory and lived for another 5-6 years that way where my mom took care of him. And then he finally succumbed to whatever they want to call it. But I didn't, as much as I spent time with my dad growing up, and he taught me, between his work and me being so hungry for work from the 13, 14 years old, I missed a lot of quality time with my dad. And my dad was my first teacher. And my dad taught me my work ethics, how hard he worked to support the 10 kids and his wife and the family. And I would love to spend even just 24 hours with my dad to talk.
What question would you ask him?
If he had any regrets, what it was like being a dad of 10 children, because I know how hard it got to even have 3 children. One child was easy. 2, they were still 2 parents, 2 childs. 3 outnumbered.
Yeah, my sister always makes fun. She's like, Ben, you don't have 3 kids. I'm like, I'm on my way. I got 2 now. So,
but 10 kids, that's absolutely amazing.
Wow, it is.
And have a wife who wanted 10 kids also. So my mom and my dad.
Man.
And some of his Navy career that I never got to know. And he was never allowed to talk about his work. Yeah. Because it was all government.
And now you'd love to hear about
stuff.
it, right? Like, yeah.
And I would really love to hear about
be a great interview.
He did, and or just doing some research on the ship he was on, how it sailed through a hurricane and survived, and the whole conning tower was lost, but the ship never sank. And what was it like to spend 4 days sailing through a hurricane, and just things that I found out after the fact. Yeah. Or running into people that he used to work with that, I remember your dad, he was amazing. And they would tell me stories, but they've long since been retired, and Dad could never talk about work.
Are any of them still around? Maybe you go on your try to get your own little documentary going, man.
For me, it would be, it's a very, very simple for me. Yeah. My dad was my hero.
That's awesome.
And I would love to spend even just 24 hours talking to my dad. And that's why I make sure that I see my mother every single day. She lives here in Bethel. She calls me every morning at 5 o'clock. And she's, like I said, she's 94. And I call her and go visit her every day on my way home. So when we leave here today, I call my mom to see what she needs. And she usually needs donuts, cupcakes, Lay's potato chips, her apple pie for Mother's Day.
There you go.
And my siblings sometimes, why do you give Mom this food? She's 94 years old. She can eat anything she wants. I don't care what she wants. She's fine.
Well, I really appreciate you being here. Absolutely. If you guys got value out of this podcast, there are so many stories in here, so much to take away from it. Like, subscribe, follow us. If you have a question for Andy, leave it in the comments. I'll make sure he answers. Yep. And we're here every Friday dropping nuggets at the Big Fish Cares podcast. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.